In today's video, I want to be real with you. I once failed one of the business analysis practitioner exams offered by BCS. Yeah, that's true. There was this practitioner exam I attempted and I failed it. And I'm sharing that experience today because I want you to know that sometimes failure happens. So let's unpack that. Why did I fail? Well, there were a number of factors. First of all, I did not have enough familiarity with the content. And I didn't realize it until I had taken the exam. But I was not familiar enough with the content. I wasn't familiar enough with the question format. I wasn't familiar enough with the language of the exam. I would have benefited greatly from looking at more sample questions and having a better understanding of the way that the exam was structured. Secondly, I think I may have been overconfident about it. I just assumed that I couldn't fail a certification exam, and especially not one that was testing something in business analysis. But that overconfidence obviously cost me a lot. So one thing you want to avoid is too much confidence. You're not immune from failure. One thing overconfidence can do for you is that you might end up skimming through topics that you think you know when you ought to be paying attention to them and reading them in detail. I think I must have done that. I just assumed that I was already very familiar with those concepts and I didn't pay enough attention to them. Number 3 is a very important one. I realized after doing that exam that there was actually a problem with the language. You see, business analysis has its own lingua. There's a way you talk as a business analyst. But apart from the business analysis lingua, there's also English. And I know that sounds very strange. I'm a Nigerian and English is our official language. We've been speaking English more or less since we were born. I think that in certain ways we would compete with English speakers from any part of the world. But the reality is that for something like a professional exam, the use of English might be slightly different from what you're used to, maybe even in ways that you're not paying attention to. There might be slight differences, slight nuances that determine meanings that you are not expecting or that you're simply not paying attention to. I think that another reason that would be closely tied to that would be timing. So time ended up going pretty quickly. And one thing I realized was that it was taking me so much time to read and understand the questions because those questions basically told stories. They were scenarios of something happening in the workplace, and I needed to be able to quickly interpret what the question was asking and then answer it appropriately. But that was difficult because it took some time to first understand the question and then think about it and be able to answer it appropriately. Obviously, these were things I never paid attention to at the time of preparing for the exam because I didn't even realize that these were issues. You may not get to see those things until you are under exam conditions and you have 1 hour to answer 40 questions where you have to think about every question. One other reason why I failed that exam was a lack of context. I lacked the UK context at that time. You see, in exams, small things matter. And I saw that there were several questions in which what the examiner was really asking for was not what I interpreted it to be in my context. The meanings would have been different within my context as a Nigerian living in Nigeria. So I needed to first understand the UK context to be able to answer those questions appropriately. So what did I do after failing that exam? Let me say that it was very annoying. I felt disappointed with myself. I felt very angry and I needed to shell out money to pay for the exam all over again. That part was something I definitely did not like. But I sat the exam again. I gave it some time. I prepared better. I took some time to understand the context better. I took some time to actually prepare for the exam. I also looked at many more practice questions so that I had a good understanding of how the exam was structured and what the questions were going to look like. And then one other thing I did was to look at the exam report that BCS sent to me from the previous exam, the one I failed, and I looked at the areas that I didn't really do well in. I prepared with an emphasis on those areas and I was able to master them. And then I sat it again. And this time I passed. I passed it very well. So, why did I share that experience? So that you would know that nobody is immune from failure. You would know that you shouldn't underestimate any of the exams, not even the foundation exam, and you should get a good training provider. So if you'd like to get certified, get in touch with me. Visit businessanalysiscoach.com, look for one of our training options, and you will get high quality training for the exam. You'd be able to prepare adequately for it. You'd also get practice questions that you can use. You get a thorough understanding of the different concepts and you generally be well prepared for the exam. So if you failed before, feel free to give it another shot. Make the necessary adjustments and this time you just might have a positive story to share. My name is Olumide Adeleye. If you've not subscribed to this channel, do so right away. I look forward to seeing you in my next video.